that I have been hearing about this artificial intelligence, but if you ask me, I am not an aficionado or knowledgeable person in technology, but with my limited knowledge, I can assure the students, don't worry, most of the applications are rule-based database management system. They have not gone into AI till date. Because when logic ends, the artificial intelligence starts. So if you ask somebody what is the logic, the person will tell you the logic. When somebody can talk to you about logic, it is rule-based database management system. So don't worry. India, at least as far as I have seen, not even 10% is actually working in real AI. So you need not be very, very, hard to catch up with the rest of the guys. Just like cyber security, it's a long and winding train, and you have just, come into the train from the last bogie. So if you have perseverance and dedication, you can use the vestibule and go to the front. So don't worry about it. So whosoever is actually telling you that in 3 months technology is changing, it will change. It will change, it will not stop. But what Ms. Banerjee told you, remember that to the core, that at the core you must know what is your strength. If you know what is your strength, you will pursue that very area judiciously and steadfastly. And there would be many more IPS like the patent that our colleague here has achieved. Not only one, you might be having multiple. So with that I would start that here the topic that I am talking to about, I will be very brief, that is data anonymizer. We have started a hackathon. Suddenly in 2020, now December, we brought out a guideline that is called West Bengal Public Transactional Data Sharing Guideline. One of my colleagues here asked somebody, I hope Nirupam, about whether NASSCOM could be helping us with data sets. So even if NASSCOM shares the list of the customers or whosoever will be buying your product, even then there is a issue called consent. And if NASSCOM does not take the consent, then that is a violation of privacy. So in 2021, India ranked the third in number of breaches, and be rest assured in 2022, it has become the second. So right now we are second, very soon we will be first, just like our population. Can actually identify me and come back to me. Just by telling my name Sanjay Kumar Das, you will not come to me. There are n number of other people around. You need to have attributes added to that. So, but people like him and everybody else here would like to have transactional data. If I'm not wrong, the person who has just gone out, Mr. Kulti or what? Kunti, what is the name? Mr. Kulshi, Dr. Kulshi, no, another person, Amritendu, Mr. Amritendu, who actually left. I hope he has a flight to catch, that's why. Okay, so what Mr. Amritendu told in his deliberation, he told that we have been actually training the data. What is the data? What is the source of the data? Who has given in the data? Just, have you ever asked, which data are you training? What is the source of data? Who has given you the data? And if this PDP, the Personal Data Protection Bill, becomes an act, the next question is, whenever you are the data principal, that means you are holding the data of the third party, you need to have explicit consent. So all these startups will die down. In Europe, it is a very simple thing that is called GDPR. It says that our rule follows our data. So GDPR follows the data of the European people. In India, there is no such rule right now, and no such act for that matter. We are into the, at the just outset of having an act which will be PDP, the Personal Data Protection Bill, becoming an act very soon. There we have clear consent manager in every organization. So even if you have, sir, my data, you need to take my explicit consent. So how could his actually, this startup would be using your data? And what is the relationship that you might be having in sharing the data? So what will happen to the, n number of that, or rather 10,000 of startups across country, this raised by NASSCOM? What will be they doing? What will happen to Ms. Banerjee's organization when they will be actually, doing analytics on the data? How big is the market of this data? In 2030, the market would be around 343.6 billion. And what is the outcome of this data if we share? How we are actually exposing us and how we are being non-compliant to n number of this thing. It is before you. So the impediments before us are international standards, so we cannot actually use their data. I cannot use European data, I cannot use American data, I cannot use Singaporean data, I cannot use New Zealand's data, I cannot use Australia's data. See, anonymizer is just like a strainer. We use strainer to have our tea in the morning. After you brew your tea, use the chakni, the strainer, to keep the leaves and have your tea in your saucer or cup. Just like that, you extract the personally identifiable attributes from data and share the data. Let me give you a very simple example. I have seen, or I saw S9 bus at 5:30. I have violated the privacy, because I can be at one place at 5:30. That means that bus can easily be identified, because at 5:30, wherever I am staying, it is very clear. Google has that, Apple has that, everyone has that. But if I say, I saw S9 bus, this is completely anonymized data, because there are n number of S9 buses, and I could be at n number of places at 5:30. So, just by identifying what is the attribute, we can just plug it out. And that's why we have started a beautiful hackathon that is called Anonymizer Hackathon, because we want to create anonymizer. So anonymizer is a strainer which revolutionizes by extracting the personally identifiable data attributes from the data, so that we have anonymized transactional data lake. And that's why it is called Anonymizer as a Service. So, in the past, there was anonymizer per se, because when we talked about masking, it was a sort of anonymizer. But when it is masked, it can be unmasked. When it is reducted, it can be anti-reducted. When it is encrypted, it can be decrypted. But when it is anonymized, it can never be de-anonymized. So, our transactional data, if that could be anonymized, can actually create revolution by sharing that data with the industry, with the startups, with the academia, and there will be no question of privacy violation. A free of cost, hackathon created by or floated by Government of India, West Bengal in Department of IT. And in Ideathon, our mentors are actually hand-holding to understand the problem statement. Somebody told that I want to open, or if, he just gave an example, if my startup is in the health sector, yes, anonymizer is required in health sector, because your health data is actually laced with personally and sensitive personally identifiable information. How? Because as soon as you see a doctor, the secretary of that doctor takes a photograph of your prescription. And as soon as a smartphone takes a photograph of your prescription, and by chance if you have Twitter in it, so 1,889 platforms immediately have the copy of that prescription. I am not saying that. In 2019, in the joint session of this Senate and House of Commons, Mr. Jack Dorsey told, what is the source of your revenue, Mr. Dorsey? He told that whatever data somebody puts up on Twitter, we actually allow it to be synced with 1,888 platforms. Actually accesses your gallery. And as soon as you take a personal or private moment of your life, or even the prescription which contains details like you take, pressure medicine at 8 o'clock of this time, everything is there, and it is already across the globe. Anybody can access that. The issue is whether they are publishing or not. And that's why when we take personal photo or private moments in our, mobile phone, and then it is actually placed in some sort of platforms, we go straight to the police and say, ki amar chobita ekhane eshe geche, apni kichu korun. And even if police can take it down, there are n number of other platforms which already have that very picture.